Hi guys, and welcome back to the channel. If you follow the channel, you'll know that a couple of weeks ago I had an invitation to actually go and film at Sinn in Germany, Frankfurt. And I was still blown away by it. I had no idea this was, they would even consider a small channel like myself. I thought this was only the kind of thing the big 100,000 plus subscriber channels kind of got. So I've got to say, firstly, so big thank you to the team over there for actually looking at my channel and thinking it's worthy for me to go over there, and for you guys for watching my Sinn videos, because without you guys watching it, I wouldn't be anything anyway. So thank you very kindly. So basically, I got a flight out there very, very early on a Tuesday morning, and flew out, got a taxi from the airport, turned up, and first thing you notice is the actual Sinn factory isn't in the centre of Frankfurt. It's quite far out, really, so it's not somewhere you just come across by passing. You actually have to make a point to go there. They do have a very, very nice shop in the centre of Frankfurt, but this is the true, for me, the factory shop is always the best one. And so they've got this big rectangular building, very modern looking, and you have a big atrium in the centre where they do a lot of their do's with lots of natural light and so forth. So I was met by the secretary there. She was so nice, Garby. She was lovely, and she kept me fed and watered, so big thumbs up to Garby. And then I got to meet the media team, people like Marcus, who was such a nice guy. I had so many interesting conversations with him about not just watches, but life in general. And basically, they asked if I could review the 356 range, and I was more than happy to do that. That's the 38.5mm chronographs from Sinn. Very wearable, great watches. But after I'd done that, I was basically had a free license to go and review whatever I wanted. And so it was really good, because if you go to the factory, as soon as you go in the front doors, you're greeted with some stairs. You've got an elevator or a set of stairs to go up one floor, and that's where the actual factory shop is. And it is amazing in there. You've got every single Sinn model in there, not just the watches, but also the bracelets, the leather straps, the clasps, some other kind of kind of little novelty stuff like umbrellas and bags and so forth, and these kind of things. So you've got a lot to look at. You can have a nice drink while you're there and have a look, and hopefully for them spend more money. But it is superb. You also got some vintage models there as well, which are very interesting if you're into your EZM range of watches. Now, they used to do a factory tour, but at the moment they're so busy. So unfortunately, I didn't get to meet the watchmakers, but I did get to meet the trainees. And that was on the last day of filming. It was truly, truly impressive, because basically they have to make a clock. So this is what I was given, and basically that's I met that gentleman there. That's Ben, and the clock they have to make. And obviously you've got the lady there who's Jessica, who's actually in charge of it all. And it was so interesting because I went round and it was just like being back at university again. So everything they did, I was completely understood inside out and backwards, because it's something I've been trained to do. But what they do in comparison to what I did at university, where I took a 3-year course to study horology, they do a 3-year apprenticeship. And hopefully from that, you might go on and then work for the company. So that was really cool. Obviously, I asked if any of you guys would like, questions asked and so forth. And we had, one of the things was like, can we have more US distribution centers rather than just watch buyers? And I really did push for that myself, because obviously the US is a very, very big place. If you consider the size of Europe and how many dealers we have in Europe versus how many you have in America, it's absolutely crazy. But I believe that watch buyers do have a monopoly on this. So unfortunately, I don't believe they can, start introducing more dealers. But I did strongly point out that there really should be, even if it's just East and West Coast, it would just make far more sense. On the fly micro adjustable clasps being fitted to all the watches, well, that is actually happening. There's still some new limited edition. There was still a couple of new models I did review which actually had the old one, but I believe it is going to start coming out across the board. The other ones, like there was some questions like, can we have a solar powered UX? Now, I spoke to them about this, and obviously they said, well, we're the media team, we don't know exactly, but we don't know how the oil would interact with the solar. And they said, to be fair, we're not a movement manufacturer, so we can't always say. Then, obviously, why do we not have the ETA thermostable movement in the actual U50 Hydro? And the simple fact is, you can't buy that movement anymore. They've said we cannot buy that movement. When they knew this was going to happen, they brought a lot of them, and they're dedicated for the UX range of watches. So the Hydro, they immediately put it with the Ronda movement, as that will be it. Because if you start taking it away from the UX, who's to say then how much longer the UX will run for if there's no more movements? So it's one of those where the ETA is dedicated only for the UX, not for the actual Hydro. The Hydro will always be with the Ronda. Not that it's technically a bad thing, but you just simply cannot get that movement anymore. And no one else actually makes a thermostable movement which will actually fit in that. Or, I don't know of any other thermostable movements which are made now and are available in mass production, like the larger amounts for a big company like Sinn. Other ones, obviously, people saying, can we have AR only on the inside because it can mark on the outside? And I'm personally, I would always want the AR on both sides of a watch. Other companies charge more for this privilege. And yes, it can mark up, and but at the end of the day, you can always remove it. I'd rather have it there and then have the option of actually, removing it if need be. Obviously, can we have another Sinn EZM1 true sizes? And they said it is something they would possibly entertain at some point, but who knows? So they're not going to give away, unfortunately, any secrets on that one, which is a little bit of a shame. But overall, I just spent a lot of time just trying to film all the watches I possibly could and getting some of the information, some really interesting stuff regarding the U15 watch I have with U-boat metal. Basically, they were saying, obviously, people are complaining it's more expensive than a regular U50, but when they showed me the actual metal and how it comes, obviously, because it comes from the hull of the submarine, it's curved. So then it has to spend different processes to actually straighten that material out. And obviously, there is corrosion on the outside of that material, because anything which is in the sea that long will actually, form corrosion of some type. So then they have to remove that corrosion without going too low, because believe it or not, the actual hull of a submarine is actually very, very thin. I was really surprised. You think one side is life, one side death. It is that amazing how thin it actually is. So many machining processes go into that before they can actually machine, actually start thinking about making blanks for watch cases. Obviously, when they do the regular U50, which uses submarine steel, that comes in sheet form. And so they don't have to spend all the extra time cleaning it, machining it, rolling it out flat. And that's, apart, obviously, you've got the far more expensive dial on the U50 models anyway. But these are all things which add up to extra price, of these watches. Another one was the interesting story behind the Sinn 171. And that was superb. Basically, there was a cockpit instrument Sinn used to make for the Tornado fighter jet. And back in the I think it was, I can't remember a date now offhand, but it was in 1980. Unfortunately, a Tornado fighter plane went down and killed both test pilots. And obviously a sad story, but many years later, a pilot contacted Sinn and said, I don't know if you're interested, but my wife has told me I've got to clear everything out. And he owns the clock, the Sinn Nabo 17XM, off the top of my head, actual cockpit clock and timer from that plane. Would you like it? And of course, from that, the 717 was actually born. And the actual instrument still worked, which was absolutely amazing. I was so impressed. Overall, I have to say, it was great. I really, really enjoyed my time out there, and it's nice to always have contacts actually at the place. Anyway, guys, any questions, let me know, and I'll always try and keep you informed. All the best. Bye.